Good morning again. Well, it's the last week before Gary comes back. I guess we got party at the point, so probably won't be a normal sermon then, but back to usual in 2 weeks. We had Pastor Jerry kick us off, and then we had Pastor Michael for the last 2 weeks, and this year you only have to listen to me once. And this year, I decided, a long time ago, I was going to talk about joy. And the funny thing is that Pastor Michael has been talking about the fruits of the Spirit, so he went over peace and self-control. I was a little bit worried that he was going to do joy, and then, I'd have to come up with something new real fast, but it worked out really good. So, not really talking about, fruits of the Spirit in the sense of, trying to do a series or anything like that, because I got 1 week, so I picked joy as a thing to talk about, and it just worked out really, really nicely. God does that every once in a while. But I want to start off telling you guys a story. And I'm going to need your help. You're going to have to use your imagination. You're going to put yourself in this story. If you need to close your eyes, you can. I will assume you're not sleeping. But when I'm done, they got to open back up again, okay? So let's say you're sitting in church today. And there's this real impression you have on your heart that God is calling you to do something important. And there's actually this race going to be happening in about a year from now. A big, important race. The type of race that, is broadcast on TV. People come from all over the world to run this race. There's a big cash prize. There tends to be a lot of media coverage. People get famous winning this race. And you're sitting here and you think, that's it. God is calling me to run this race. He's not just calling me to run this race. He's calling you to win the race. You got a year. That couldn't be it, though, because, you're not as athletic as you maybe once were. You're not in the greatest of shape. You're older, maybe, than most of the people that are running this race. But the more you sit here, the more you are certain that that's what God's calling you to do. That is the path He has set out for your life. That is what He made you to do, is to win this race. So you walk out of these doors after the service. You tell your friends, your family, I'm winning the race. And they kind of chuckle a bit and say, okay, that's cute. That's great. But people train their whole lives to win this race. People come over the world over to win this race. The top athletes in the world are going to be there. You're not going to win the race. But you're sure God has called you to win this race. So you know what you do? You make some changes. You start eating a little bit better. You start working out a little bit more. Months go by. Your friends still don't really think you're going to do it, but they're fairly impressed that you've made some changes. You're making progress towards being a more fit person, better able to run a race. But they're still kind of telling you, hey, this is a long race. This is like marathon plus type of race. You're not in your prime. You're good. I'm proud of you, but I just don't want you to get your hopes up. But your hopes are up because God gave you a message. He gave you a calling. He gave you a dream and a goal, and so you work at it, and for months, you deny yourself some of the things that you normally would do, like eating a little bit extra of that dessert. Some of the times that fun things you want to go do with your friends. No, you got to train. You got to practice. And a year goes by, and you're there. It's race day. You're feeling good. You're feeling fitter than you have in years. You got so much more energy. And God is on your team. You're going to win this race. And you dream, what happens when I win this race? Oh, the money I'll have to be able to help people, to put towards causes that matter. Oh God, the things that I will be able to do for you. And when I win and I get all the media coverage and everyone is cheering my name, what I'll be able to do is say, it wasn't me. I started training only a year ago. This is all God. We get to point to him and you dream of this day. Going to sleep that night, you can hardly sleep. Wake up the next morning, you put on your racing gear, walk to the registration, get your little number paper signed to tape on you, get to the finish line, and you start looking around and, well, you were feeling fit this morning, but when you start looking at yourself compared to some of these other people, I mean, some of these people are like half your age. Some of these people might be twice your age, but man, they look twice as fit as you. There's a little twinge of doubt, just a little knot in your stomach. But you've been training for a year for this. God called you to do this. You're certain of it. You're certain of it. So you figure God can do the impossible. Sure, the top athlete in the world is standing next to you, but you got God. So you get in your starting line, the gun goes off, you all start going. And you are immediately left in the dust by the first 10 or 20 people. They are just so far out. You're giving it everything you got. You thought in a race, like a long race, you should pace yourself. But you're sprinting as fast as you can go, and they're still gaining distance between you. You run like that for as long as you can run like that, and you got to slow down, and more people start passing you, and you think, it's not going to happen. There's no way I'm winning this race. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe God didn't call me to win this race. Maybe I'm just supposed to finish it. You started training like a year ago. That's not that much time. These people have been training their whole lives. What if you're kind of like middle of the pack? That's not bad. You're still pretty impressive. And you'll get to the finish line, and your friends will be there, and there'll still be cameras there, and they'll see this person who hadn't run a day in their life probably for the last few years finish this race. You won't get the cash prize, but the money's not that important. What's really important is that you'll have a platform to speak, and God will have done an amazing thing in your life, and you can tell people about that. So you keep going. You keep going. This race is long. You didn't actually do the whole research. You're not sure exactly how long it is. You just know it's long, and it's feeling really long. But the nice thing is that as people keep passing you, you're fairly certain that there's still at least somebody behind you. There's got to be, right? And they have blocked off the race route with little wooden markers as they go along. So even though you can't see anybody anymore, you're on the right path. You run for another 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Your feet are really hurting now. Your knee is bothering you. And all of a sudden you realize that there is nobody behind you. There's a long straightaway that you just passed, and it probably goes for a mile down there, and you can look all the way back, and there's nobody there. You're in last place. And not even only are you in the last place, you can't see the next guy up in front of you. That little bit of a knot in your stomach becomes a bit of a ball as you realize that you're not going to win. You're not going to come in, middle of the pack. You're not even going to be barely last. You're going to be last by a long shot. Maybe you should just stop. You're not feeling good. Your knee hurts more now. Your lungs are burning. You've ran twice as long as you ever ran in the practices that you've done. You're tired. But you think, I trained for this whole year because God told me that I needed to run this race. Maybe that's it. Maybe God didn't call me to get any attention. Maybe he just called me to get a little healthier. And maybe I won't have people across the world, I won't be on the news, but my friends and family, they'll see what I did this year. They'll see, the good habits that I put into my life, the good choices, the bad things I stopped doing. They doubted that I could even finish. Most people don't even finish this race. You actually recall them saying now, even some of those real committed athletes can't make it. So if you can make it, It doesn't really matter if you come in last. If you can finish this race, you're going to cross that finish line. You might be limping when you cross that finish line, but you're going to cross that finish line. Your friends are going to be there and your family are going to be there. Maybe the news cameras will be gone, but that's fine. You'll have people there to cheer you on, to say, I'm proud of you, you did it. That was a pretty big accomplishment. So you keep running. You keep running. I mean, you're not really running anymore. You're kind of hobbling. You're in a lot of pain. It's a lot longer than you were expecting. A lot harder. There's some hills. You never trained on going uphill. And the sun's starting to get a little bit low. You're not sure how long you've been running for, but you started in the afternoon and all of a sudden it seems to be evening. But you have this vision in your mind that God called you to run this race, to finish this race, and your friends and your family are going to be there. It's going to make an impact on them. And all of a sudden you see up ahead there's a truck. There's a couple guys and they're taking the wooden pieces that made your path and they're loading them onto the truck. And you get closer to them and you realize that they're packing up the track. You can't see where it goes after this. You get to those men and you say, well, what are you doing? I'm running the race. I need to know where I'm going. They say, well, I don't know if you noticed, but the sun's going down. The race is over. No, you don't understand. The race isn't over. I'm a runner on the race. I got to get to the finish line. Well, and they say, the finish line, it's been packed up. It's not there anymore. My family, they're waiting for me. My friends, they're cheering me on there. They're standing there waiting for me to get there. I can't just not show up. And they say, well, I hate to break this to you, but there hasn't been anybody waiting at the finish line for about an hour. Everybody went home. And maybe you're just out of luck. You probably should go home too. And they start packing up the rest of the track. And just out of sheer stubbornness, you decide to keep running. Your lungs are burning. Your knee really, really hurts. Your feet are sore. And that ball in your stomach has become like a 10-pound weight weighing you down. You run for a minute or two, realizing you have no idea where you're going. Even if you kept running forever, you don't know if you'd ever actually make it to the finish line. You don't know how long the race was supposed to be. You don't know how long you ran. You don't have a track. Eventually, you kind of just sit down in the middle of the road. God called you to run this race, didn't he? Maybe he didn't. I mean, you did everything you could. You tried your best. You believed, you had faith, and gave it everything you had just to realize that you don't have what it takes. You're not really enough. You're not going to win. You're not going to come in the middle. Nobody's going to know what you did. It really doesn't matter if anyone knows what you did because you didn't really do anything. You didn't even finish. And so you sit there, defeated. And now that I've made you all depressed and probably a little bit confused, some of you are sitting there going, Greg, I think you missed the point of your sermon. It's supposed to be about joy. It's written right there. Don't feel a lot of joy. But I guess that becomes my question, is what is joy? See, it's easy to talk about joy in the sense of being happy when things go right. See, if I told you the story about how God did a miracle and you had only a year of training and you stuck ahead with that first guy and you won and you got the money prize, you got the fame, and you were able to tell your story and you were able to help people, it's easy to be joyful then. So the question is, what is joy? Is it more than a feeling? Is it something that we can have when we start the journey, when we're all excited about the things God is going to do in our life, about the possibilities, when we dream about the outcomes that we could have? Is it just then we can have joy, or can we have joy when we're sitting on the road in the middle of the night and no one's there and we're tired and hurt? So we're going to talk about joy. See, joy should be something of higher quality and substance than just a fleeting happiness of day-to-day life that we can get excited about certain things. So the question is, if we want that kind of joy, how do we get it? How do we get that joy? Well, first off, what we got to understand is that joy needs to come into our life, and there has to be a conduit for it to come. And I think gratitude is the conduit that joy enters your life. It's the doorway. If you think of fruit, again, Michael had this kind of vision of a you-pick fruit market. You go to the fruit market and you say, I want a little of that, I want a little bit of that. But you don't just hold them, you eat them. They provide nourishment for you. And so gratitude is like your mouth when it comes to joy. So what do we got to do? Well, we got to count your blessings, not count your struggles. Count your blessings, don't count your struggles. Because how do you have a heart of gratitude? Well, you look at the things that are a blessing to you. I mean, you could be sitting on that road thinking about all the ways that you failed, or that it was hard, or that, you just wasn't going the way you want to. But you could also sit there thinking about how far you actually ran. You did probably more than you were ever capable of a year before. Again, the better choices that you made, these are all blessings. So count your blessings, not your struggles. And when you count your blessings, those blessings produce gratitude, and that gratitude is a doorway for joy. One problem. See, we can count our blessings and not our struggles, and I think that's really good to do. I think it's a great thing to focus on. I think it's a great practice to have, to count your blessings, to try and focus on them. But the problem is, the struggle is real. See, pain has this way of getting our attention. See, as much as you want to focus on your blessings, struggle tries real hard to get us to look the other way, and that's kind of how it's designed. See, biologically, pain is a response of your brain saying you need to focus on this because this is going wrong and we need to fix this. If you've got a sliver in your arm, it's going to be painful. Why? Because you need to get it out. That's not how it's supposed to be. So what happens when the struggle is real? What then? As much as I think it's great, again, to count your blessings, and we should all do that, the reality is that the struggles we have in life can take away our ability almost to look at something else when it seems all-encompassing. I'm a guy who will freely admit I'm not a big fan of the Psalms in general. I'm a musician, so there's a lot of poetry in that, but I don't get poetry a lot. I'm a guy who likes a story. I like a thing where you can follow the narrative where it goes. That speaks to me a lot. Poetry is a little, don't really get it. But I decided, as much as, Psalms is probably not in my top 5 favorite books of the Bible, I was going to read all the Psalms. So that was a few months ago. I just decided, you know what? I should read the Psalms. And so what I did is, at lunch at work, I read one Psalm every day at lunch. If they were really short, I might read 2. And it actually worked out really nicely. I just finished Thursday or Friday this last week. So I read the entire book of Psalms in the last month. And I do have a favorite Psalm. And it's still my favorite. After reading them all, it's still the one that I like the best. You guys probably are all familiar with the opening words to it. Very, very famous. You guys maybe could guess which psalm it is. Psalm 20. No guesses? 3? Yeah, you're wrong. That's the one that most people like. Most people love my God is my shepherd. I shall not want. My cup runs over. I got a table prepared for me. It's a beautiful psalm. I do like it. But my favorite psalm is actually the one that comes before that. And the opening words that you'll all be familiar with, are probably better remembered being said not by David, who wrote the song, but by Jesus. My God, why have you forsaken me? It's the first words of the psalm. I'm in pain and I'm struggling and I don't think you're here. I'm alone on this road and I hurt and everyone's gone. See, this psalm kind of follows a little bit of a pattern. And I found reading the Psalms, there's a lot of Psalms like this, where they start off with struggle. And this psalm in particular, there's a bit of a pattern for about the first 80, 90%. The writer says, God, I'm hurt and I'm struggling. And then he says, God, this is who you are. Please don't leave me. God, my situation really sucks and this is bad, but God, don't be far away from me. So I want to read you some of this psalm. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read the bad parts. So you're welcome. You're welcome to follow along. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me? My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night I find no rest. But I am a worm and not a man, scorned by everyone, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. Many bulls surround me. Strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. Roaring lions tear their prey, open their mouths wide against me. I am poured out like water. And all my bones are out of joint. My heart is turned to wax. It is melted within me. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You lay me in the dust of death. Dogs surround me. A pack of villains encircle me. They pierce me, my hands and my feet. All my bones are on display. People stare at me and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. We get it. I mean, if you had said that in this story that I told, sitting on the side of the road, kind of fits. David said it. Jesus said it. I mean, I know David is said to be the author of this in the Bible, but I really think it was Jesus that was the author, just speaking through David. This was his prayer on the cross. When the struggle is real, what do? Do you just try and pretend like it isn't? Count your blessings anyway? Well, maybe you count your blessings anyway, but you can't pretend like it isn't real. See, a lot of times gratitude is a matter of perspective, not circumstance. And even though your circumstances are real and your struggle is real, you can still have gratitude. It can still be the doorway for joy. And so if you have a doorway for joy, the question becomes, what is the source of your joy? See, if the source of your joy is your circumstances, well, that's going to change. If the source of your joy is your health, well, that's going to change. If the source of your joy is your ability to get things done, that's going to change. If the source of your joy is your relationships, well, they'll also change. Parents pass away, children grow up and move out, friends sometimes become not friends. So if we want to have a constant and consistent joy, what is the source of your joy? Many of you know or knew my mother. She was often sitting right up here whenever she could. The last 4 years of her life or so, there was a lot of struggle. She had some health issues. She had a moment in life where all her kids grew up. She was a single mother. You know, she put food on the table for us and gave us a home and worked doing whatever she, could do to do that. And then her kids grew up and they got out of the house and she realized, I got my own life now. And so she had a dream. She was going to go do social work. So she did her studies, she did her school. She got a job out in BC and moved out there and worked there for about a year, and then things started to change. And another year after that or so, and she needed to move back because she couldn't take care of herself. And I was pretty fortunate the last couple of years of her life. I got to spend a lot of time with her. She needed a lot of help, so I got to do a lot of that. I got to take her groceries to her usually every week or two. And every time I'd take her groceries and help her, put things away. And we had to reopen everything. So you had to open the milk carton and put it on just as loose as possible so that she could open it again later. Open all the cans and things like that and put them away. And we had a lot of conversations on those nights. And the one thing that always struck me was how much joy she had. See, it was interesting. I laughed one time. She talked about telling a friend from back in BC about kind of what her day was like. And her friend was just distraught. Her friend couldn't really handle it, and she realized that, this person who only heard what I went through is more negatively affected by what I'm going through than I was myself. And again, I got the privilege that, I was kind of one of the persons that she would share things. And the struggle there was real. There were hard times for her, but she had joy. I got to kind of help her get to bed, in the last few months when things were a little bit harder, and help dress her wounds every night. And she couldn't reach places either and didn't have great ability to do hands. So when we got her into bed, there was a bit of a system because she had scleroderma and she didn't have really good circulation. And so she needed to keep her hands warm, she needed to keep her feet warm, but she needed to keep the rest of her body from overheating. And so what we did is we had her bed. It had 2 or 3 blankets. One of them was a heated blanket. Now we folded the heated blanket over just enough so that it covered the bottom of her legs and put that on. And then we put gloves on her hands, and then she couldn't lay on her one side because of her congestive heart failure, so she always had to lay on the other side. Now, if the top part got cool, she needed something that she could grab, so we had a little sweater laying on the one side of her. And then she also had these 2 special pillows. One was kind of hard to give her support, but the other was really soft because she couldn't lay on her skin was very sensitive, so she couldn't lay on the side of her head without causing issues unless she had the really soft pillow. And then we would get her all in and we would get her going, and then I'd turn out the lights and say goodnight and almost walk out the door, and I'd hear, "Greg, I need to go to the bathroom." And then we'd get her up because she also, scleroderma affected her GI tract, and so sometimes, you couldn't go, but sometimes you had to go, and you just did what you did. And I mean, the struggle was real. We saw tears, and we also saw joy and laughter. And the question that she was never unsure of was what was her source of joy. I'll give you a little hint. I know it's summer, so forgive me, but I'm going to quote a traditional Christmas passage. Luke 2:10. "But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid, I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people.'" Well, who's that good news? It's Jesus. And the angel was right. See, Jesus was my mom's joy. And so no matter what went on, no matter what the struggle was, she had him. It was all for his glory, and that was enough for her. Jesus, when he was talking to his disciples, talking about being the vine, in John chapter 15, verse 5 to 11, let's read it together. Jesus says, "I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete." That's what Jesus is saying. Hey, you want the fruit? Good. I want you to have the fruit. And not only do I want you to have the fruit, I want you to give it away. But how do you do that? It's through me. See, your gratitude may be a doorway for joy. But the joy comes from me and through your gratitude. But here's the thing. We can do nothing apart from him. See, the door to joy, that gratitude, it's very often too heavy for us to open on our own. See, we can talk about counting our blessings all day long. At the end of the day, we just can't do it on our own. Jesus is the source of our joy, but he is also the one who helps us open the door to let it come in. See, here's the thing I like about God. God is a both-and kind of God. See, we live in a world that's very much an either-or world, right? We live in a world where if I owe Dan money, we got one of two options. It's either or. Either Dan makes me pay it back. That's justice. That's right. Okay. Or Dan says, you know what? I forgive you. I'll take the hit. You owe me nothing. That's mercy. That's pretty cool. We all like that every once in a while, especially when it's coming our way. See, but God said, no. You guys, you got to deal with either or. I don't do it that way. I want a both and. I want justice, and I also want mercy. So what God did is he sent Jesus Christ to this world to give us both. See, that's the way our God works. See, God takes our joy, he takes our blessings, and when we take our blessings to God, he gives us joy. When we say, hey, God, thank you, my gratitude. You've blessed me here. You've blessed me there. This is good in my life. You know what happens is when we take that to God, he gives us joy. God says, no, that's not enough. That's not enough. See, God's plan is not just to give us joy in spite of our struggle. It's not even just to give us joy alongside of our struggle. It's not that we're struggling, but we still got things to be thankful for, which we all do. And so God says, here's your joy for those blessings, and sorry about the struggle. No, God doesn't do that. See, God's plan is not just to do that. God's plan is to give us joy through our struggle, to give us joy for our struggle, to give us joy even because of our struggle. See, God says, okay, listen, bring me your gratitude, bring me your blessings, bring me the good things in your life, and I'll give you joy for those. When you bring those to me, I will pour joy back on you. But if you don't got a lot of that, it's okay. Bring me your struggle. Bring it to me too. James 1 verse 2-4 says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Mature and complete, not lacking anything. See, that's what Jesus said. He said, I told you this so that you may have my joy and your joy may be complete. You don't just get half of joy. It's not just joy when you bring your blessings to God. It's joy when you bring your struggles to God. See, we should count our blessings and not our struggles. But that's only half. What we should also do is count our struggles as our blessings. It's a little bit harder to do, I understand. But see, the truth is that it doesn't really matter what it is you carry. What matters is where you carry it to. See, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're carrying your blessings around. I mean, that's great. You'll get some joy out of those, even on its own. But whether you carry your blessings to God or whether you carry your struggles to God, God's a both and type of God. I'll give you joy for that, and I'll give you joy for that. And so we can do nothing apart from him, so we need him to be our joy. We need him to open the door to joy. And so one of the questions become, why do we strive? See, in your story about running a race, if you'd known the end of the story, instead of thinking that you're going to win the race, if you know you would end up tired and sore, sitting on the road alone at night, would you have done it? Would you have put yourself through the struggle of preparing? Would you sacrifice the extra food or the extra time with friends to train? Why do we do it? Should we do it? There's a story which I absolutely love. I'm a story guy, by the way. Paradise Lost. I don't know if any of you have read it. Probably have heard of it. It's got some old English, but it's probably like one of the best works of fiction of all time. It's theological fiction. And there's this part in the story. So there's an angel, and he's sitting with Adam and Eve. They're having lunch together. And the angel says, hey, by the way, watch out for this sin thing. I just want to warn you. And Adam and Eve go, I've never heard of this sin thing. What are you talking about? And so the angel tells them the story about Satan and how he fell from heaven. And what happened was Satan decided, I don't like this Jesus guy, because this Jesus guy, we're being told to worship him like he's better than us, but I can't imagine anybody better than me, so I don't like it. And so he goes off and he decides, I'm not going to worship nobody no more. I'm about as good as it can get, so that's good enough for me. And he takes a bunch of his angels, about a third of them it says, and except for one in the story, he actually got some brains. And he goes off and he starts this rebellion. And so what does God do? He says, oh, this isn't good. They're coming with an army. So angels, why don't you go out and you go fight them? And so they all go, yep, we're going to do that. And they go out and they fight, these angel on angel battle. And there's some pretty cool imagery. It just escalates a lot. And eventually get to the point where they realize they're immortal. They can't die. But their weapons just get, trying to one-up each other until they're just hurling mountains at them. And we go back to heaven and God's sitting there and he goes, okay, well, it's been 2 days they've been fighting. 2 heavenly days, which, it's not like earth days, but it's been 2 days in heaven. Jesus, they had 2 days. The third day's for you. Jesus says, okay, let's do this. And he suits up and he gets on his chariot and he rides out to where this war is happening. He gets to all these angels fighting and he says, hey, guys, it's okay. You can stop. I got this. You don't need to help me. I'll do this on my own. See, here's the thing. We sent you out to battle knowing you couldn't win. We sent you out to fight for 2 days, let you strive and struggle for 2 days, knowing that you'd never be able to win. You're equally matched. It's impossible. I'm going to win. And so Jesus goes and he rides his chariot towards these other angels, and they just run afraid. It says Jesus didn't even use half of his power, but he wasn't trying to destroy them. He was just trying to, scare them a bit. And they're so afraid they run to the edge of heaven, and they see the edge of heaven just drops off, and it's an abyss, and they're scared of that, but not nearly as scared of that as they are of him. And so they run right off. And the celebration happens. They won. The battle is won. And guess what? Jesus did all the work, really. I mean, they didn't really make a dent, but they all got to celebrate the victory. See, God is a both-and type of God. See, he believes in truth, so he's not going to lie, but he also wants you to get the reward. So, he asks you to share in the work. Not because your share that you do of the work that he has decided for this world is actually going to make much of a difference because of you. It's going to make much of a difference because of him. You share in the struggle. You share in the striving so you can share in the glory because Jesus wants to share it with you. Your story matters because it's a part of his story. You see, your story about your struggle and your overcoming all the ups and downs of your life doesn't mean a whole lot if it's just you. You don't actually have that much to give. But because it's part of his story, it makes a difference. It changes people's lives. It gives people hope. It gives people joy. His is the greatest story ever told, and he wants you to be a part of it. What Jesus said, that this is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. See, it wasn't just about that Jesus wanted to give you his joy, but you're supposed to also be a conduit to joy for others, conduit of hope, conduit of him, to be his disciples. So you ran this race. I mean, most of it, you hope. You're sore. You're hurting. You're sitting on the side of the road. Eventually you realize, well, you can't stay here forever. So you pick yourself up, you hobble your way home. As you're walking home, you see your house and there's lights on. Sounds like there's noise coming from the house. And that's kind of weird. There's a lot of cars parked around. And you walk through the door and you hear all your friends and your family shout, "Congratulations!" And it says race winner on a big banner, and you're really confused. And they start clapping and they pat you on the back and they say, "We're so proud of you. Man, I didn't think it was possible, but you did it. You're the winner of the race." And you sit there, guys, I don't know what you're talking about. I was on the road like half an hour ago sitting in the dirt. I didn't win the race. And that's when you see off in the corner someone, at first you don't recognize, but then you realize That's Jesus. I know him. I know him, and he's got a number on his shirt too. And Jesus walks up to you and said, hey, we did it. We did it. And you go, oh, what do you mean we did it? And he goes, I crossed the finish line first. We did it. And you say, I didn't cross the finish line at all. And he says, yeah, it doesn't matter. We're on the same team. See, in a race, you generally think that the person who wins is the only winner. But there are some races where you're on a team, things like relays and things like that, where when one person wins the gold medal, they all get the medal. If you're playing on a football team, it doesn't matter if you spend the entire game getting stomped into the ground. You don't get a single yard with that ball. You don't catch a pass. I mean, you barely take a step before you're just crushed. But if they win the championship, you still get a ring. See, Jesus did all the work. He did everything that counts. But because you were on the field, you get the ring. You get the celebration. 1 Peter 1, 3-9. Peter says this, praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy has given us birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. In all this you greatly rejoice, though for now, for a little while, you have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. For you are receiving the end results of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Did you catch it? You're receiving the result of your salvation right now. It don't have to wait till heaven until it starts. It starts now. It starts right now. Your whole life, from the moment that you're born to the moment that you die, no matter what struggles or failures, what blessings come into it, your whole life is glorious because of what he did. And that's what my mom knew. She knew that God could heal her, but he didn't. She died almost a year ago now. It's easy to say, hey, the light snuffed out too early. She didn't accomplish the things she wanted to accomplish. The whole social work. She didn't get to affect the people she wanted to affect. But every part of her life, from the moment she was born until the moment she died, was glorious. And so there could be joy. An inexpressible and glorious joy. See, God, Jesus Christ, he desires to give you praise, glory, and honor. It should all be his. But it says it right there. See, these have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. When the end is here, and the party is happening, and we're celebrating the win, he wants to give you praise. He wants to give you glory and give you honor. Not because you deserve it or have earned it or in any way, added to it, because he loves you. It's all his. He deserves it all. He won it all. He earned it all. But he wants to give it to you. And that is joy. So the joy of the Lord is available to you, no matter your circumstances. You can reach out and you can take it. It doesn't mean your struggle isn't real, but when your struggle is real, you bring your struggle to him. And you give your struggle to him and he gives you joy. Don't do what a lot of people do. They walk in this struggle and they go to God in prayer and they say, God, I'm struggling, and then walk away and take their struggle back. No, when you go to the fruit market, you don't give your money and walk away. Bring your struggle. Stay with him. You stay with Jesus until he gives you his joy. And in every single one of those Psalms that I read through, any single one that started with struggle, they always ended with something different. So let me read you the ending of Psalm 22. We'll start at verse 28. For dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship. All who go down to the dust will kneel before him. Those who cannot keep themselves alive. Posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord. They will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, he has done it. And that's us. We're the people yet unborn. But we're also the people who get to declare, he has done it. He did it. He did it. And now we have joy in everything. We have joy in our blessings and we have joy in our struggles because it is all glorious because he did it. And no matter what we bring to him, he can give us joy for that. If we're willing to go and meet him, he will give you joy. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you that you have done it. Jesus Christ, we thank you that you did what we could not. You finished the race. You won the race. And God, even though we don't understand and we don't deserve it, for some reason you love us enough to share the glory that is all yours, to share the praise that is all yours and the honor that is all yours. And God, that your joy can be in us and that our joy can be complete. Not just halfway, not just when things are good. Not just from the blessings, God, but from the struggles. 100%. You can give us joy. And we thank you and ask that your Spirit would come, fill us with that joy to overflowing, and that we can go out and be joy and light to everyone we meet. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.